Hey everybody, this is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video about lab leaks, blab, bleeding, nonsense, and how to protect yourself from bioweapons. So yes, today we will be having an update on our health situation. I haven't done a video specifically focusing on medical topics in a bit, so let's do that. If you don't take anything else away from this video, just remember masks work. Avoid getting sick if you possibly can. I know sometimes it can be difficult for various reasons to reduce risk, but long story short, it's highly recommended you do that just in general, especially in the current situation, but at really any time. So PSA aside, though, but now we'll get into more of the what's actually happening in current events. In case you don't know, the what are they calling him now? Orange Cheeto, the Grand Cheeto, the Agent Orange, which was a chemical weapon, biochemical weapon. Yeah, he is out there claiming. Well, not him. It's actually the U.S. and the collective. Well, I shouldn't say it's not as collective anymore, but certainly the U.S. Federal government on its website is now claiming that again. It's not really. It's just constantly flippity flopping. That's why I call it blabbing and bleeding, because like blab is to like let slip, or it's just kind of like speaking uncontrollably, letting slip important information. Part of this is they're letting slip a lot of the truth. It is a projection, and they're accidentally kind of letting the reality out. The U.S. has the largest actual bioweapons, biological military research operations in the world, and it has used such weapons historically and continually. So it's kind of telling. If the U.S. is talking about, if U.S. says anything about other countries doing something horrible, and colonizers, imperialists in general, when they do that, it's all virtually always a projection of what they're already doing, have done, planning to do. So it's blabbing. When the U.S. says, China is specifically saying it's a lab leak from China again. It's a projection of what the U.S. is doing and has done. It's definitely used bioweapons in, for example, Korean War, in wars in East Asia, or in its horrible actions there, including using malarial mosquitoes. The U.S. at Fort Detrick, among other places, has had lab leaks before, including anthrax and other horrible pathogens that it has leaked out of its bioweapons labs, that the United States definitely has. And so it's kind of giving away that game to start with. And it's screaming it very loudly. Why is it screaming it now? Like, why is the U.S. talking about this now? Okay. Well, so now we have to step back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit in time to see why this is coming up again now. Just to throw up on screen in case you don't know about this. So the U.S. White House doubling down on its lab leak theory. Trump declares lab leak as true origin of COVID. Yeah, White House changes COVID.gov webpage to page supporting lab leak theory. Yeah, so this is what is kind of prompting this. The website once had resources for vaccines, testing, or treatment for COVID-19. And now it just says it's a big splash screen of Trump on blue with this lab leak. It's I'm not sure. This is kind of bad it's kind of bad graphic design, but when you send all your women and queer people out back to be Stepford wives or just stop existing for DEI, what you're gonna get is bad design by straight guys who don't know what they're doing, know what they're doing, don't have any talent, don't want to work, to be well at anything, to be good at skilled at anything. So I think that's part of why all the design is getting really bad. Everything's falling apart. Stuff is breaking. That's one of the reasons. Is you get rid of all the people that are competent. The military actually had to reinstate women back into many of the managerial, just keeping the ship running, keeping all the documents, keeping people's the basic secretarial work and keeping things in the right places, IT work. You have to put people back because things were falling apart. Anyway, that's kind of an aside. But so the White House has directed people to lab leaks for origins of COVID-19 with a 5-point argument for the theory that COVID-19 originated from a mistaken lab in Wuhan, China. The new site appears to use theories from the final report of the Republican-led subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic, released in December 2024. There has never been a consensus or smoking gun to explain what started the pandemic. It's important to note that there is no solid international consensus on exactly what started the pandemic, where exactly it originated, whether it was a jump from animals and nature to humans, or if it originated from a biological research facility dropping a flask like in Resident Evil, and then the virus escaping, and Mila Jovovich having to shoot lots of zombies, and cities falling to pieces, with brain dead, unconscious, unthinking people just walking around spreading illnesses to each other, creating more of those people called zombies, right? That did happen. People walk around in cities unconsciously and unthinkingly spreading bioweapon or horrible, if not bioweapon, very, very damaging illnesses to each other. And so it is Resident Evil in that sense. We didn't have Mila Jovovich running around in a cocktail dress shooting weapons and parkouring off the wall. So we got a little bit ripped off, I feel, with this live action apocalyptic zombie apocalypse. You know what I'm saying? Got a little bit ripped off. So anyway, the COVID page, COVID.gov page, is recently, as well as last week, listed resources for testing, treatment, and vaccination against COVID-19, as well as information for long COVID. 5 pieces of evidence put forth by the White House for the theory include following assertions that the virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. The data shows all cases stem from a single introduction into humans. That Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research. It's actually an American lab in China. Elon Musk has, or he might not have them for much longer. Elon Musk has Tesla factories in China. Apple has iPhone factories in China, right? So the U.S. actually, outsources some of its biological medical research into China. And Wuhan does have a lot of biological. It's a place that specializes in a lot of medical research, biological research. So some of that is actually legitimate. The U.S. has weapons labs all around the world, 330. There were 57 in Ukraine, just as one example. Bioweapons labs targeting Slavic, ethnically Russian people's DNA for specialized viruses. That was part of why they assassinated a Russian general. Just one little aside. But in the U.S., there's Fort Detrick. The U.S. took Unit 731, which is heinous war crime committing Japanese unit that just did this most disgusting experimental test, especially on Chinese people. There's a whole there's a movie coming out about that soon. So the U.S. does, and it has admitted that it does. The U.S. military said we need to do bioweapons, making hybrids. We need to use biological bio research, other kinds of life forms, weaponizing chemical weapons, any kind of weapons we can possibly. And they talk about this openly. They talk about killing millions of Chinese, millions of Russians, Chinese, Iranians, millions of anybody, Africans, and they say it openly like it's totally fine and normal. Just like they recently talked about blowing up the Three Gorges Dam, killing 400 million Chinese. American military, American, Republicans and liberals, conservatives and liberals are saying, they're just posting this online. We could blow up your dam and kill 400 million of your innocent people right now. And maybe we'll do it. Right. Many, not, and it's really gross. It's kind of but it makes sense based upon what they're doing in West Asia, what has been done over the 5 centuries of colonialism, constant genocide, killing the buffalo just to biologically extinct Native Americans, killing 100 million Native Americans, what they did in the Congo, what they did all over Africa, right? What they did in, all over Afghanistan, what they did in Korea, using malaria mosquitoes. So, genocidal war in Vietnam, Agent Orange killed millions of people, innocent people, not combatants. So, the U.S. and the West in the colonial capitalist world is the one that is known to use any and all weapons, including biological weapons, bioweapons, to kill innocent people. Okay, but it's obviously the West as a whole is now, and the U.S. leading that, is focusing on Wuhan and China's research. But the reality is, if the only people that we know have definitely used bioweapons is the U.S. and and before them the colonial, mostly European powers, and the Japanese did do research, and they have used. Sorry, let me just open up. So, anyways, let me not get too far ahead of myself. So, anyway, the page, but so I just want to point that out in this article, because I'm not saying that this is the truth. I'm just saying this is what the White House website says. Okay, if there was evidence of a natural origin, the researchers at that research lab were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, and that if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced. Something else to add, there were evidence of Americans in the summer and earlier 2019, and people around the world. There's actually like wastewater in Europe was found as early, like way before fall 2019, with COVID DNA. COVID particles were found in wastewater in Europe way before fall of 2019. Okay, so it's like I mean, I know we've been over this. If you've been watching a lot of these videos on this channel, I have at least 10 streams probably just focusing specifically on pandemics and what to do, and history and biological warfare and etc. But so the Spanish flu was called the Spanish flu not because Spain was where Spanish flu was created, not because Spain was where the first flu of that time happened, right? It was called the Spanish flu because Spain reported on the flu, because other countries were pretending it didn't exist, or they were simply not reporting on it because they were all trying to one up and get one over each other. They were in a struggle, in a conflict with each other. There's also shooting wars happening around the time, and the U.S. is in a conflict, and so U.S. right, the U.S. is in no. The U.S. is not going to share anything, and not just because capitalism is a system of hoarding true information and distributing the false, but also because the U.S. Just in general, but also because the U.S. There's a high probability if there was created in a lab, there's a high probability, and there's much empirical evidence that the U.S. would have created it if it was. I'm not saying it was, but if it was, the U.S. is one of the top culprits. And so the U.S. has no interest in ever sharing the origin, and we know that it will weaponize information at any way, or true or false information in any way that it can, or half-truth, twisted information, to suppress others for imperial capitalist, white supremacist hegemony, as an empire that is now fading, right? So I just want to say that, so that because people will say, well, it has to have come from China because we saw sick people. I mean, that's where they want everybody to focus, right? It's the same as the West Asian settler colony, right? They want everybody to focus whenever they say history started. That's whenever it best benefits the colonizer. That's when they say history started. Whenever it best benefits the empire, right, or whoever happens to be the capitalist, imperialist in chief. If it benefits, the Z word people to say, October 7th is when everything started. Like out of the blue, suddenly we were attacked, right? Then that's when they start history. Obviously, there's apartheid that goes back as massive human rights violations that go back decades. Uh, the history benefits the U.S. to say, oh well, this out of the blue there was this virus that just showed up in Wuhan in China. Um, Completely ignore. And the Chinese have said like we need to investigate Fort Detrick. Like what let's investigate, where let's investigate U.S. labs. Let's investigate the wastewater in Europe. Let's investigate this mass outbreak of very COVID-like illnesses in various parts of the United States earlier in summer or even spring of 2019. Right? Let's investigate that. But of course, the informational war is always pushing away. Just don't look at that. Just it's nothing to do with rationality, debate, discussion, evidence. It's just a fire hose of whoever has the bigger gun. In the tariff war, China has the bigger gun and the BRICS have the bigger gun. In case you don't know that, you're being informationally warred yourself into believing that the U.S. If you're in the West, if you speak English, French, or Spanish, you're being told that. But just in case you don't know that, the West is losing. Okay, China's going by 5.4%. U.S. just update on last week's stream. U.S. is going by maybe 0.3, possibly negative 0.3 percent. So you lost, or the West lost. The U.S. lost. And I say that speaking from U.S. occupied Hawaii, so it's not gonna be fun. But anyway, okay, let's stop getting distracted. If there was a natural origin, it would have already surfaced. I don't know if that's true. These things can be difficult to sort through. The pages includes claims that government officials, including former NIAID director Dr. Anthony Fauci, helped edit and then amplify a research paper on the origins of COVID-19 in 2020 that supported natural origin theory. The current page suggests this paper's explicit intention was to discredit the lab leak theory and remove any doubt that the origins were natural. This is not a new accusation. In the past, Fauci and the paper authors disagree with the accusations that the paper was manipulated or had any specific goal. The origins of the pandemic have been hotly debated since its start. The prevailing theories are always seem to focus on two scenarios: either natural exposure or an infected animal, or an accidental lab leak. With no smoking gun and limited access to raw data, discussions of the science has played out in a haze of circumstantial evidence. Limited access. Who is limiting access to the raw data? Like who is limiting access to the raw data? Okay. Well, the U.S. obviously. The U.S. doesn't want to talk about like the origins of fentanyl. Right? China said, okay, well, if the U.S. has very high levels of people consuming this terrible drug fentanyl, if you want to limit the fentanyl, China and Mexico said, okay, well, we'll help you to stop the arrival and we'll help you to stop the fentanyl getting into the U.S. and being used by Americans. China actually offered law enforcement cooperation to say, okay, well, we'll help you track exactly where, because actually China sends precursors, not the completed fentanyl, and many of the precursors are necessary so you can have medication to save your life in America. Many of your medicines you take for cancer, when you're in a hospital, for various illnesses, Alzheimer's, everything you need medications for. I know they're super expensive, but those medications, that you get require precursor ingredients. It's like the flour and the sugar and the eggs to make a cake, but for medicine, right? And so China said, we'll work with you in the U.S. law enforcement to stop the people that are illicitly getting and then making fentanyl. When China started tracking what happened, what it discovered, the United States government and political elites, not Mexican drug cartels in particular, or South Central American drug traffickers, the narcos on Netflix. It was actually American government, American white business people, American upper class that were discovered to be complicit in all of this. They always are. That's the British and the French elites and their government who did the narco trafficking before. America just took over for them. 83% of all the opium was grown in Afghanistan under U.S. control and was trafficked to do all the dirty wars for the U.S. empire. As it has always been, the West is largely just a succession of drug dealer and piratical criminals stealing everybody's stuff on ships and then dumping industrial quantities of heroin into them to keep them suppressed, right? So it's also known as central accumulation. So the U.S. said no, we don't want to research that. My point is, we don't want. No, let's. The U.S. chose to stop investigating where the fentanyl is coming from because the United States government, China executed 4 Canadian meth, 4 Canadians for moving industrial quantities of meth, 200 kilograms into China. And I joke on Shang too, like every American, all of the U.S. government would be executed, right? If they actually enforced the laws against actual drug dealing, the way that China does. And so similarly, if the U.S. investigated where the lab, if they want to actually investigate the origin, right? It's not that there's no smoking gun, right? Or it's not that the smoking gun, where the COVID originated, is happening. This is ABC News. This is corporate imperialist capitalist news. With no smoking gun, right? And limited access to the raw data. It's not because the data just is, it's this passive voice, right? This is the way they write news reports about what's happening in GAZA. It's not because the access to the raw data is limited. It's because the United States, imperialist, capitalists, that's all the usual suspects, the oligarchy, they don't want anyone to discover that it's probably them that made the COVID. There's actually a lot of evidence pointing to that. I don't have time to go into all the details. But the furin cleavage site, the spike protein, a lot of these, the COVID, or I already said it so many times, I probably should just keep running with that. The COVID-specific virus mutations existed 20 years ago in U.S. biolabs. There's like evidence of that already. Even Jeffrey Sachs pointed this out. There's no exact, like, COVID was made by the United States in this lab, and then it was released in this way. There's no like direct, incontrovertible proof of that. But there's so many things that like point in that direction. Let's just say, okay. So, but so the U.S. doesn't want to give any of this data, right? It doesn't want to give up. The CIA doesn't want to give up its intelligence. That intelligence, it doesn't have any brains in it. I mean, the people have like barely 3 neurons to rub together nowadays. That's why they keep failing in these ridiculous wars and hybrid wars they keep losing. But they want to keep all the information close to them, and they don't want to release any of that. So anyway, so long story short, so because this is about the leak is coming out now, we're discovering the true origins. Okay, so I just want to point out that that's this is what do I want to point out? I want to point out that like this is another contrived limited is another one of a deep spiraling like Mandelbrot set, like a fractal recurring infinite recursion of propaganda narrative distorted stories, right? That is this is most of what the US and the West has always done, is to basically spend most of their people's the best and the brightest energy goes into crafting narratives and just like warping, just lying, professional lying with bad infographics, bad graphic design like this. They lost all their best DEI hires for USAID and the US disinfo, when they fired all the women and the queer people. That's why all the graphics going to be like, it's all going to be like half-assed like this from now on. But that's great because it means that imperialism, capitalism, and colonialism will destroy themselves faster, just as Donald Trump is destroying dollar hegemony, the U.S. Economically, militarily, technologically, its leads, whatever the U.S. and the West has had is going bye-bye. Okay, anyways. Hey, what's up, McGlovin? Okay, so let's go back to the point. Stop going into geopolitics too much. Okay. So a few things I want to point out. Okay, so COVID, it was called a lab leak, right? It's been called a lab leak. But also, remember in the beginning, Trump said it was just a little cold, right? So if it's coming out of a lab, that it's just a little cold. It's just a little flu, right? Remember in the beginning? So let's focus on Trump because he's the president now. Back in 2020, he was president. See if I can find that one. Back in 2020, he joked with the officials, right? And he said it's just a little cold. in the beginning, right? He Trump was on a phone call in 2020 where he said and it was recorded and later released. They said, oh, he knew, oh, this is going to be bad. It's going to be like the Spanish flu, according to his intelligence reports in the early 2020, right? But he lied to the world and the American people when he said it's just a little cold, it's just a little flu, don't worry about it, right? Whatever it is, it's gonna go away quick. We're gonna deal with it. It's gonna be gone. It's nothing. But he knew like it was gonna be as bad or worse than the Spanish flu because he was privy to intelligence reports from the United States government that and several other American senators and representatives, right? Again, that's another way. That's another way that like they withhold information, and that's the asymmetricalness of information under a capitalist system because, like the Democrat and Republican senators is bipartisan, so the U.S. Democrat senators and Republican senators also were briefed, and they dumped their shares in Amazon. Sorry, they dumped their shares in hotel and airline stock because they knew that there was going to be a global shutdown of the airports and traffic was going to come to a standstill. Then hotel stays were going to come to a standstill, and so they dumped those stocks and then they bought Amazon and Zoom because they knew ahead of time as U.S. government. That's all insider trading. That's all illegal. That's all you would. All things like that, you'd all be executed in China. Just another example, like you'd be executed for corruption, doing things like that, taking privileged information and using that to make tons of money for yourself. Like in the U.S., it's all like it's just like the bribery, the corruption is all just like de rigueur. It's just like normalized and legal. That's one of the major problems. But anyways, but they knew that information ahead of time. They used that to buy up stocks in tech, right? In online shopping, because people were not going to go into shopping malls. Amazon was going to blow up, right? Zoom, digital teaching, digital conferences. People were going to go. They weren't going to go to their office meetings in person as much. They were not going to be going to their college classes, their high school classes, right? So if you bought Zoom in January 2020, before the lockdowns, before the not very well and not very long, not at all well followed, well organized, preventative, responses to COVID were taken, but they were taken, right? And so, so Trump also knew that, right? That was going to happen. He also made money, right? Just like he's making money now with privileged information and just like weaponizing, making the stock market bounce up and down to try to, squeeze some money out. Now, but at that time, right? He said the COVID, it's not a big deal. It's a little cold. But also, right? Either COVID doesn't exist. It's just a little cold. It's not serious. But also, as a bioweapon, it's coming from a Chinese lab. This all happened at the same time, right? A lot of these are happening simultaneously. People are like, how is it a serious, dangerous Chinese bioweapon, but it's also nothing? It's like not even, we need to think about it, right? How is this a Wuhan? This has always been obviously this has always been nonsense. And anybody who like has, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, whatever. If you're taking all the information in, and you're not like seriously questioning and researching all of this somehow, I mean, I know it's hard to research in the West, but and it's hard. There's so much disinformation campaigns around this. It can be difficult, but I mean, like you have to at least question all of that. Anyone who's telling you, right, or that you have to be questioning that. How can it be a biolab weapon, a BSL 3 level pathogen, biosafety level 3 pathogen, bioweapon made in a enemy country lab? I mean, according to the U.S., right? According to these narratives, it is made to kill and destroy America and to wipe out countries, right? So this is a bioweapon, right? That's made in a lab. But also it's just a little cold and it's nothing. And often it's the same people. It's Democrats and Republicans have both said this at different times, right? The people from both sides of the U.S. duopoly have said, simultaneously it's a bioweapon, or said it was a bioweapon 1 week or 1 month, and then flipped back, and it just bounces around. As part of why they say, oh, it's controversial. It's not controversial necessarily, right? It's that various chaotic, horrible forces, oligarchs at the top, like just right wing grifters on, the Joe Rogans, Alex Jones trying to sell hydroxychloroquine, just trying to sell like RFK, just these random people trying to keep their, CrossFit studio open, people who just want to go to church. And it's understandable. You want to go to church, you want to see people, you don't want to not be in person with people, right? But then people, like individuals, various, small vested interests, people just wanting to get their ridiculous, conspiracy podcast going, QAnon, the U.S. government itself, the Democrats, the federal government, Trump, Republicans, and they all have their own nonsense they're all spreading. Like everyone is peeing 25 different colors of pee in the pool, and what happens? Everyone is swimming in this disinfo pee all the time, and it's not just on COVID; it's on everything. It's like the Republicans just said, I think on Fox News, it was like Boybert said like, the what was it, like the Democrats are full of communists that are destroying America. Some like ridiculous, absolute nonsense. But that's just right. So, but disinforming people for your political benefit, so you can get elected. Disinform people so that for your own personal small business benefit, so you can keep your gym open, or your church open, or your whatever you're wanting to do. You just want to go to school. Telling yourself that, right, for your own personal, so you can feel okay doing things that you were doing while you're getting everyone sick with a horrible pathogen. COVID is really damaging. I mean, scientifically, that is known. And then you have money interests going, well, we don't want to shut businesses down because we need to make money. People going to malls, we need people going to work. We need to keep capitalism going. People showing up in offices. We got to keep that commercial real estate up. We got to keep that, the hotels, the airlines, Boeing, right? United Airlines were some of the top lobbyers to reduce the COVID precautions, the COVID isolation days, the general guidelines for how long you're supposed to stay home when you tested positive for COVID, right? It went from 9 to 5 to 1 to none, largely because the private capitalist interests of the airlines just felt like that was best for them, right? So you have none of this is because none of it's taking into account what people's health, what is the impact on people's health, not really taking into account long-term economy, and the economics of it, the jobs, let's not just say jobs, let's say like the economic well-being and the ability for the society to provide all the material needs for people, right? It doesn't really take into account the psychological needs, because one of the impacts of COVID-19 is massive psychological trauma and damage. People have like completely changed personalities from this, is one of the impacts of COVID infection or reinfection. Anyway, so so let me try to stay to the point. But yeah, so it was a bioweapon, but it was a lab leak, but also didn't exist, right? And then it was also, Trump also said, Trump initiated Operation Warp Speed. Just another thing to point out. Operation Warp Speed was a public-private partnership initiated by the United States government to facilitate and accelerate the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, COVID-19 vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics. The first news report of Operation Warp Speed was April 29, 2020. So that was beginning. I'm sorry, that was Trump was still president at the time. The program was officially announced May 15, 2020. It was headed by Moncef Slaoui from May 2020 to January 2021, and David A. Kessler from January to February 2021. So, this is the funny thing. The Republicans have talked about, don't get the Bill Gates microchip jab in your arm, right? Vaccines harm you. Vaccines kill you. RFK is one of the lead. He's like one of like the dark lord of anti-vaxxing, right? This guy, he's for like nobody should ever go to the hospital, raw drink raw sewage. He's got all kind of unhinged ideas, right? He's one of the biggest. He's like, everyone's gonna get autism from the vaccines, and autistic people never pay taxes was his latest thing. And autistic people like, I would like a $8,000 tax refund because I don't pay taxes, right? I would like all the taxes I've ever paid. RFK, you owe me like hundreds of thousands of dollars, mountains of money I've paid you because autistic people. I'm autistic, but I'm paying taxes still. You said we don't pay taxes. Okay, give me my money. Show me the money, RFK. Anyway, so there's all these anti-vaxxers. It's and I want to point out something that's like, I'm not like saying that, oh, this is not just, you should vote Democrats because Donald Trump and Republicans are bad on COVID. No, I mean, they're all bad. They're differently bad on everything. Part of the reason why the Republicans tend to have anti-vax is because the Republicans, they're based, they're all pro-empire, they're all basically one party, but Republicans focus on the red areas tend to be whiter, they tend to be, basically that's one of the major things. It's whiter, it's more Christian, it's a bit more rural, suburban, which also is where they tend to live in the U.S., the white populations, and maybe focusing more on male, and more red states. Okay, so and also the Democrats tend to focus on cities and the coastal areas, right, and the blue, and not just white people. Not that they're going to help the people that is in their districts, right? But they focus on those people to get votes for the non-democratic plutocracy of the United States. So, but in these cities, right, you have lots of women, queer people. I mean, disproportionately women, queer people, people of color, in LA, in San Francisco, in New York, and the kind of business there is a lot of science, there's a lot of tech. People have on average more university degrees than not, right? Women get more university degrees than not, and those are more tend to vote Democratic. And biotech, right? Pharmaceuticals, medicine, healthcare industry, right? So Democrats tend to be more on that, especially like big, large scale, because that's what they do in those districts, right? It tends to be more vegan, more vegetable centric. That's what they tend to do in California, around the big cities. People have, like California has I should say, it was producing 70% of all of the lettuce, cauliflower, broccoli, strawberries, fruits and vegetables of the United States, right? I don't know if it will anymore because the LA fires drop industrial quantities of hypertoxic lithium, burned lithium and other heavy metals all over the salad bowl of America. So I wouldn't eat any of that shit. And they just defunded the FDA. So it's a 1-2 punch. The Republicans and Democrats are working together to poison you to death. So the Democrats, right, for the Neofeud so that the LA fires could, destroy all that territory, get at rare earths under it, displace everyone for the mega insurance companies. And the Democrats all did all that with the black woman sellout mayor like walking away while LA burned, right? And they also burnt the lithium factory, the last American battery factory. Trying to give me batteries? No, just burn and die. Burn Rome, burn star-spangled imperialist racist Rome. So Democrats allowed this fire to happen that also burnt one of the knock-on second-order impacts is the lithium fire hit a battery factory, a battery plant, and then that battery, the metals from that landed in the salad bowl of the United States in California, toxifying all of their vegetables. And then the Republicans said, what we're gonna do? We're gonna help you out, buddy. Right? This is bipartisan working together. We're gonna get rid of the FDA and stop all testing and all regulation of food products in the United States of America. So don't worry about all that metal that's gonna kill millions of Americans and give them cancer and strokes and Alzheimer's and dementia and and nobody will be able to tell whether it came from COVID-19 or from all of your toxic food. Because, we're going to get rid of all regulations. That's actually where Democrats and Republicans work together. Now, that benefits food corporations. That benefits, right? It does benefit food corporations, and it also benefits, it benefits the beef industry because if they got H5N1, if they have any toxins in the beef, They don't have if the beef is toxic, it's a benefit Republicans in Texas selling their beef, right? It's also gonna benefit Democrats selling their poisoned vegetables. So you see, it's actually they're all on the same team, but they tend to focus a little bit on different things, and also COVID-19, right? Um, Democrats will tend to say, yes, oh my goodness, COVID-19 is not it's not that serious, but you might want to not get it, and what you need to do is take a vaccine, and because they have larger investment and contributions from the high tech biotech that their regions tend to be invested in, right? And their voters tend to be people who are working somewhere in and around biotech hospitals, that kind of thing. And so, not to say that vaccines don't work; they obviously do work, but they do. Ideally, what should happen is vaccines should be publicly funded under a socialist system, and then they should be distributed to everybody, at a very low cost or free, as they do in normal countries like China or in Cuba, which is better health and had a better response. Also Vietnam, that had better health, overall response in general to COVID, and health in general. And that's why they have longer life expectancies. And also they're curing cancer, diabetes, and deafness in China as we speak, and more. And it's also the cancer cure, it costs 100 times less than America if you can get access to it in America. America's trying to stop them from curing cancer. Because it could get cut into BlackRock and giant mega banks' profit. So anyway, long story short, the Operation Warp Speed was a project to develop a vaccine or vaccines, right, plus treatments for COVID-19, launched by Donald Trump, right, launched by the Republicans, and simultaneously he shortly after that, right, and the conservative Republic, he and his fellow conservatives have been saying they've been behind a lot of this. Vaccines don't work. Vaccines kill you. Millions of people are getting measles because, or not millions, but many people are getting measles. Millions of people are refusing vaccines more than they were before because Trump's people, including RFK, again, one of the top anti-vaxxers, right? RFK's Jr.'s anti-vaccine leadership, this guy, because he has told people not to get vaccines, measles is growing all over the place, but even including in Texas. It got so bad that RFK had to say, maybe we should take a few measles vaccines, but we should take them because autism is bad and people could get autism. Anyway. Okay. So this is another one of these nonsenses, right? Where it's like Trump said, okay, well, we have to get vaccines as fast as possible to deal with COVID-19. We're going Operation Warp Speed, but also vaccines are going to kill you. Don't never take a vaccine. Don't take a COVID vaccine. The jab will cause brain damage. It's not the COVID that hurts you. It's the vaccine that hurts you. Once you get jabs, you turn into like a woke SJW DEI higher, putrid monstrosity. It decreases your ball size. Your alpha testosterone levels start to drop. You turn into a beta, sigma, epsilon. You start. All the young people are saying like sigma, beta, that now, because of these people and that are on their podcast telling and the difference between another difference between Republican and Democrat is the Republicans, they have their own cure. See, they are selling products, right? Trump was selling hydroxychloroquine, remember? Right, there was hydroxychloroquine. Let's see if I can get that. That was hilarious when he said Trump suggested using things like cleaning out your insides using Windex or like disinfectant. He said, Trump said, hey, can we shine a light? I heard you can use light to kill these viruses. So can we like take like a giant flashlight, like a searchlight with an ultraviolet searchlight? Like let's get like a, let's just take this searchlight, stick it up your butt. Can we like shine it down your lungs and like clean inside you? And the doctor was like, I remember that. he suggested coronavirus might be treated by injecting disinfectant in the body. Did you know that actually like 18 people like went to the hospital and some people died because they injected bleach into their butt? They got like a bleach enema. They put in disinfectant up their rectum. It's actually kind of sad and it's fucked up, but like and because Trump is America's Marcus Aurelius, he is the entertainer. He's like, are you not entertained? As the Star Spangled Roman genocidal empire dies. He is entertaining. When he says stuff like that, it's hilarious, and then everybody follows it, and then it's sad, but it's still funny. And the Democrats don't know how to do that. Trump did. Trump, Trump is different between Trump and like all Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and all these politicians, right? Trump did reality TV. He did WWE. Like he knows theater, Like he did The Apprentice. Like he did a show that actually did some numbers. Like he is an idiot and he knows nothing basically, and he's a horrible person. But like he does know how to do the crowd. That's what populists in Western imperialist capitalist racist hellholes do. Like they have some of these showmen. They show up. P.T. Barnum types. Trump. They were populists in the late 1800s, right? They were Hitler gave a good speech, and everybody followed him, right? And then he did what the West always does, which is commit mass death and killing of people. Did colonialism inside Europe, and they call it fascism. But anyway, so Trump, he said like we're gonna clean people out, we're gonna use the Windex inside your body, we're gonna take laser pointers and we're gonna stick them inside your where you got the COVID. Where's your COVID? Is it in your nose? I'm gonna take a laser pointer and stick it up your nose. I'm gonna shine it into all your nose hairs, right? Where's the COVID? Is it inside your butt? Are you pooping wrong? Actually COVID is actually 85% more contagious through the aerosolized microparticles of feces when you go to a public flush toilet. COVID actually survives for months longer in your digestive tract, in your large and small intestine, and in your poop, than in your cough, in your airways, in your nose and in your lungs, right? So actually, if you go into the bathroom and you breathe in other people's giant cloud of poop, that's a good way to get it. In the Macy's, in the shopping mall that closed down. It's good that all the U.S. shopping malls are going to close down because the tariff war is going to destroy the U.S. economy. And it'll be a giant crater, because then you won't go into the shopping mall and breathe other people's poop in and get COVID, Omicron, Epsilon, Delta, Kraken variant, which we don't even know what variant it is. I mean, there could be really cool variants out now. You know what I'm saying? There could be like a really cool variant out. There could be like, there could be like Cthulhu, Zulu, Teflon variant. That's how far we are along. But we don't know because we're not even testing. Nobody's testing nothing. Nobody's surveilling. All the science on health is all just being ripped up and thrown down the toilet, right? It's like 1300s, 1400s Europe level health now. We're going back to the era of the cholera, right? Where everyone just pouring poop out the side of the window. Because you won't have sanitation either at the rate that the U.S. is destroying public infrastructure. Anyways, let's move on before I go too far into that spiral. Okay, so COVID wasn't a lab leak, but it doesn't exist. Okay, so Trump said there's no vaccines, or vaccines hurt. Republicans as a whole, anti-vaxxers in particular, said, oh my God, these vaccines are going to hurt you. But think about it. If you think about it economically, think about it from the perspective of plutocratic, oligarchic self-interests, right? Just horrible psychopathic system like the U.S. and the West has. If you're the Democrats and you're like, we run Pfizer, we run our team is, the blue team is, Democrat team is Pfizer. It's the big corporate health entities, the Sacklers. It's Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's Bill Gates. It's Cigna, Aetna, the big health insurers. It's also, it actually makes sense why the opioid crisis disproportionately killed white men. If you're a straight white guy, partially it's the access to healthcare is higher if you're a straight white guy. And so but also right, it's actually like it was known it was known to like wipe out entire like South Carolinian mining towns. Like there was a mine was shut down. There'd be lots of like poor or working class white people in somewhere in Michigan, and like fentanyl, OxyContin, the opioids, right, that are trafficked by Blue State. You know, what is it? The Sackler, big Democrat owned and operated pharmaceutical entities. And they would come in and they would like push, you know, what's going to make you, everything is going to fix you up. The best thing for you is to take Oxy. It'll bring your wife back. It'll make your life happy again. Take some Oxy, take some fentanyl. Are you feeling some pain? They will give it to the U.S. military. They suck on this fentanyl lollipop. Fentanyl, it will make your eyes bright, your teeth bright, childbirth of pleasure. You know, it's like a country song played backwards. Take some Oxy, take some fentanyl, right? You get your car back, your job back, your house back. The mine will reopen, right? The lumber mill will reopen in Michigan, and you know, even your 12-year-old children won't have to go back and work and get their arm chopped off. You can go back and get your arm chopped off, right? That's what America does to children, forced child labor, unlike China, which doesn't do that. So people took fentanyl, and millions of people got sick, suffered, and hundreds of thousands, at least, if not over 1 million, have died from fentanyl overdoses. That helps Democrats. There's less white guys around. I mean, it's what you want. I mean, just that's one way to think about that. I mean, that's really gross and sick. But I mean, again, we're talking about the U.S. This is the West, right? This is not a civilization like Cuba or Vietnam, you know, or Iran. That's like an actual democracy, like a real human rights and freedom respecting place. I'm not even joking. Or North Korea. That's where they actually have healthcare, housing, food, and electricity with zero costs for basically all of those things, right? The U.S. is like you have to work your butt off and die in a mine. Work 3 jobs just to afford food and rent and not have any health care, right? So we're not talking about a civilization. This is the West. This is the U.S. So, and then they tell themselves, oh, this information is, oh my God, we're the best ever. At least we're not like China. It's like, no, they're doing way better than you. All the money that they have made, they have got themselves out of central accumulation, and they have, you know, better housing, healthcare across the board, everything. Right? They're living in 2080. It's not even 2050. They have like flying electric cars, and they can like basically get healthcare. The average Chinese has 1.5 houses. American, I was pointing out last time, Americans have 0 houses. They are permanently destitute tenants, peasants. Or peasants not necessarily a bad thing, but Americans don't have nothing. So this whole idea of getting back to that point. So the right-wing podcasters will focus on hydroxychloroquine. They focus on, not that they care about the health of their own people either. You know, there was Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson. They were talking about beef, turmeric, and salt, pissing in your eye, right? Using your own urine to treat COVID-19, right? Because some people are having eye problems, and like if you actually drip your own urine in your eye, this would help you. There were people like Pierre Poilievre was talking about ball breathing. Like if you breathe through your testicles, this is going to help with everything, your masculinity, and it also can treat COVID-19. Think about all right. Their ivermectin, horse dewormer was one of the miracle cures. It was a horse or goat? I can't remember exactly, but it was like if you use the medicine that they use to remove worms from the heart of this ungulate. It was I think it was horse dewormer. That can treat COVID-19, right? People took that and it got hurt their health, right? Just like sticking bleach up your butt will hurt your health, right? Just like trying to spray Windex down your throat into your lungs, right, will hurt your health. And people did. But those are like the RFK anti-vaxxers. They have colloidal silver. They sell like, you know, eating dirt, you know, and they traffic in all of these nonsense, right? So some of these actually cross. Like RFK does cross blue and red, right? So he's actually from a blue state. He's from the Kennedys. Kennedys were like one of they were like they're a big Democrat party, but they do cross into the Republican. They have crossover. You know, they have that's what equal opportunity means, right? It means super rich, horrible people, oligarchs, right? Like the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have the opportunity to sicken and kill people of all demographics, of all parties, right? That's what equal opportunity in America means. Anyway, but yeah, but you can see where like And so the Republicans, they tend to focus on beef, and they tend like the reason why Jordan Peterson, who leans conservative, right, leans more in the Republican end of the spectrum, talking to men about why women have to, the chaos dragon of women has to be removed from the earth in order for the male Western civilization and patriarchy, which is the best normal natural thing that lobsters do. Remember that, and that's what we need to do. And so that leans to the Republican demographics or who they aim at, right? And so you had Jordan Peterson's daughter was talking about beef, just like beef and salt. That's all she ate for a while, right? They're promoting that, but that's nothing to do with whether beef or just eating raw vegetables is healthy. Like in California, they say eat raw carrots and celery only. Well, that's because the Resnicks are committing genocide in Gaza by selling those, right? And that's what they need you to buy. They operate right in the blue Democrat areas of the salad bowl, right? They want you to eat lithium and die, right? And then also, while you're dying from the poisoned vegetables that is covered in the runoff of the aerosolized particles of LA wildfires, they got to send that money to kill more people in Palestine, right? Along with all Hello Wonderful Pistachios and all the other vegan plant products that the Democrats grow. It's nothing to do with eating only pistachios or eating only carrots, right? They have many of these raw juice. Eat the raw diet. Eat the only vegetables uncooked, right? It's also the lack of culinary culture or culture of any kind in the white world. That's part of the problem. But also, it's like we're selling these because we are in the local oligarchy. In the various, people are invested in different things. So if you're in that area, if your more money is invested into vegetable corporations, right, then you're gonna want people to buy as much as that, right? And then if you're in the Republican beef area, it's not because beef is good for you, beef and turmeric and salt, like Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan and right wingers are saying, is gonna do nothing. Is gonna save your life, right? How would you ever poop again? You're gonna have like explosive. You're gonna have like a giant, you're gonna have a great wall of your own anus, and it's gonna explode out of your belly button. How are you ever gonna poop again? You're gonna have like serious tearing down there. You're gonna you're gonna have the closest thing to giving birth as a cis straight, wannabe cowboy loser, right? As your rectum rips into shreds, like the part in Akira, when he transforms into a monster, and so that's really bloody and sad for your butt. And so, my point is that beef or just vegetables. At one point there was like a bacon. That was because of the bacon lobby, right? Nerds eat bacon. You gotta eat more bacon. Geeks buy bacon. Like get your Game of Thrones shirt with a bunch of bacon. Here's put this bacon on your when you're making your STEM robots. Don't forget to have bacon with a side of Steven Universe, right? That's because the beef industry was like the meat industry was like, we're not selling enough of this stuff. We got to sell some more of this before we're getting too into this other. It has nothing to do with whether that's good or whether that's cool. It's all manufactured consent, right? Or manufactured taste making, right? And so the beef is like, you got to eat beef. You got to eat all the podcasts. We just eat beef because we're going to get so buff and big just eating beef. You're going to get a heart attack and die. You're never going to poop again. It's not good for you. You shouldn't eat one of anything. You shouldn't eat just one food group. Be like a normal human. Be like a normal human. Challenge impossible for the collective West. Or the less collective West, and certainly for the United States. So, but it has to do with because because the beef industry is concentrated in these the red Republican areas, right? Particularly Texas, right? Then that's who they're gonna pedal to, right? Similarly, so the hydroxychloroquine, even like I've seen like using beef to cure your COVID, right? None of this has anything to do with the science of what is actually going to treat COVID. You know what cures COVID? Never getting COVID. That's obviously there are treatments too, but you know what cures it is what really stops your COVID bioweapon, if it is a bioweapon, from hurting you is never getting it. You know what stops that? Masking. That's the number one thing, right? I mean, not exposing yourself to other people's aerosolized spittle and other airborne poop, right? And other things like that. Wiping your groceries, just stuff you can do. But the number one thing is actually for us is masking. I'm speaking from our experience but also from science. And I'm sure Holly will drop links about that if you want to learn about all these specific things. I don't have time to go over every single thing I'm bringing up. But also we have many. There are many streams that we have done that's related to this. So this is not this is not our first viral rodeo, as you say. This is not the first time we have rounded up some micro xenomorphs in the lungs. When was the last time we did one of these? Let me just look at it. Oh yeah, we did one in November of last year, and misdiagnosia. Why everyone's still sick. I did one. We did one. Let's see. Before that, we did one in. Some of these are AI plus. Oh yeah. Well, this one includes virus related talk. So we've been doing it at least every 6 months or so. We try to do at least one stream that's like focused on the viral impacts. Like this one deals with one of the things that hurts your mind is getting these horrible pathogens over and over. And this one was about, remember last winter, everyone was getting sick and everyone had pneumonia. Remember this? Everyone had pneumonia. So one of the things that if you really want to not get sick again and again, with anything, and I'll say this now, like we have been masking. Let me just turn this off for us. So we have been masking for the last 5 years, since March of 2020. Okay, so every time we go out, so we go to the shopping, if we go do our groceries, laundry, when we go to get our taxes done, we recently did that. One time we did our taxes, and the tax lady across us was like not deathly ill, but was like coughing up a storm. Like she was constantly coughing and sneezing the whole time for an hour, basically. And 4 of us were there, and 0 of us got sick. Being exposed to a definitely sick, coughing, sneezing person, some kind of flu or a cold of some kind. I forget what she said. She said she tested and it wasn't COVID, but whatever it was, right? So so over 5 years, that's and we go out multiple times a week on average. We're out for hours at a time. We're in crowds. We're in malls. We're in the library, malls, grocery stores, laundromats, crowded areas. We've been on the bus even sometimes. It's very crowded. Some of us have been on planes even. We've had 0 cold, flus, stomach bugs, 0 COVID-19 as far as we know. 0 measles, mumps, rubella, upper respiratory tract infections, RSV, 0. 0 pneumonia. Anything you could think of. We had no contagious. The only thing we had is allergic reactions to pollen, basically. But we're not always masking like at home. This is when we're in the house. Actually, when we feel sometimes not the best is when the it's just the plant reactions to the plants releasing their little particles, right? But no contagious viruses or bacteria of any kind. Zero viruses. Okay. It's like it seems like most people, even like 2023, like 50% of people or more were basically constantly ill. They said the average person in the U.S. by 2023, not even 2023, the average American was getting sick. And average American, Canadian, this goes across the board. Really, some of Europe is worse. Sweden is actually worse because they had complete let it rip, right? They had 0 lockdowns of any kind, 0 precautions. The average person was getting sick 12 to 13 times per year, or at least once a month. Okay, the normal before that, like in 2000 or like before the COVID pandemic, the average person was getting sick. It was like just in general. There's different for different age groups. I went through a whole data about that before, but the average person was getting sick 2 to 3 times a year. Some people get less, some people get a little bit more. depending on your immune system and your conditions where you work. If you out around many people in dense places more often, that you're gonna get sick a little more often. But on average, just once every 6 months, once every 6 months, maybe you get a cold, and it goes away in like a few days on average, right? Since that time, the average person has been getting sick in the U.S. once a month, and some people get sick twice a month, right? Some people get sick once a month, and it doesn't. The length of time that the cold or the flu lasts has increased from like a day or two, a few days, to a week, 2 weeks, or people get sick for a whole month. Some people are sick for a month. They used to be never sick or sick once every 6 months. Now they get sick twice a month, and the cold basically they're sick for like 2 weeks at a time. So they could be sick the whole month with like two different viruses, right? That's what that is. That's your immune system is damaged, right? So you have acquired immune deficiency syndrome, also known as AIDS, which is one of the knockout impacts of COVID-19, which does attack the T cells, B cells, reduces these counts, and harms and damages your immune system. Okay. Anyway, any one of these topics is like hours of stream. I don't have to go into too much depth, but I want to make sure if you haven't heard about that before, you should know that now. But some people, I know people are like repeat watchers, so just in case. Okay, so we've done this many times before. In case you're like, oh wow, what is the situation with the viruses? Everyone's sick around me. Just based upon my own observations now, and it's hard. They're making it harder and harder to get access to good data on this. There's like a lot of wastewater data, and there are people that are still trying their best to track. But the Trump administration has definitely like ripped up a lot of and destroyed a lot of the meager and not optimal resources that were given to even trying to track COVID-19 and other illnesses, right? They're just basically destroying many of these agencies. The regulatory agencies were never great to start with, and what was there is just being further eroded. So that's not good. But like most of the people that I have contacted that are not COVID conscious, that don't like, and it's not. I know people like feel like so bad and sad if they got sick. Like it's, oh my God, you're like you're so horrible, you're bad. I know a lot of people like they can't mask because like they're in a household and they're like at the whim, they are like vulnerable to being kicked out by their family or whoever they're living with, right? Whoever owns the house or pays their rent or pays the mortgage. And so like I know somebody who like got sick because like they got sick because they're the person that their family members in the house brought home an illness and they couldn't they couldn't stop from getting sick there, and like that sucks. That's like, and they're like, I mask as much as I possibly can. I reduce my risk as much as I possibly can. So that's that's not that can't be put on them. I mean, we have a good situation. Like I said, we have had 0 colds and 0 flus and zero COVID and 0 illnesses, but we at least we have this household. Thankfully we're very lucky in that sense. That Silver Spook Cooperative here, we don't have to we don't have somebody else who can kick us out of our household because we're trying to take COVID and other illnesses seriously, right? But some people have that. If you go to work, like I heard Starbucks wants to ask their workers to not. There's discussions. There's the rumblings of discussions that Starbucks. We know this because one of our friends who works there, that they want to ask other employees to. They want to make it a policy that employees are asked to not mask, right? They haven't done that yet, but there are jobs where if you mask, you can get fired or you can get docked pay. It's just going to be really hard for you. People got to get attacked for masking at jobs. So that really sucks, and it's unfortunate. But that's you just got to try your best. If your family sometimes brings home a cold, but if you mask at least when you're out going to school or going to work or whenever you can, or reducing your exposure, then that's better than people in your household bringing home COVID or some illness, and then also you just constantly exposing yourself, bringing home illnesses too. You know what I mean? So anyway, so number one, just in case you don't take away anything else, vaccines in general do work. I mean, getting access to COVID vaccines now is actually expensive and difficult in many situations. Another lie from the Democrat end. Okay, so from the Republican, it's basically like COVID doesn't exist, but it's also a bioweapon. It's just like childish nonsense, BS. Or if it does exist, take hydroxychloroquine or eat beef because I'm from the red district and we sell beef and I'm on the beef take. I'm on the beef oligarchy. I'm on the beef half of the vegetable beef Democrat Republican one party empire oligarchies take, and I'm gonna get a $500 every time 1,000 of you eat exclusively beef or say that you're doing that or something. Sign up for the beefaroni, make our cows great again newsletter or some shit, right? It also explains like while a lot of the Democrats and the vegans on the liberal side are always going, you gotta stop eating dairy, you gotta stop eating beef, you gotta never have any cow, any animal, everything ever again. Because also we have to keep, genociding indigenous people like we're doing in Palestine, because that's, many Zionists are straight up taking the money from all the vegetables you buy to go unalive tons of people. So it helps them because you say like, we stop those native people and their hunting practices, and we could stop Republicans, and we can make more money. Because if you replace everything you eat with our soy, our, lithium covered corn, and our asparagus, or our, genocidal pistachios and almonds from the Resnicks or whoever we work for, then we're more money for us, right? It's nothing to do with whether one of these things is more moral, healthy. None of it's moral. You're all, Westoid, like you're all complicit in all the genocide and also destruction of the environment, including all the California wildfires because of the indigenous Mi'kmaq practices of controlled burning that you didn't follow, and the capitalist system that's destroying literally everything. So, and obviously, if you want to eat a certain way, that's like, thing you can do, and that's that's a thing that you can do, and you can pursue that. But this idea that I'm just trying to point out that like a lot, if you analyze what percentages of the capitalist oligarchy money flows in which direction to Republican or Democrat coffers, it tracks like what they say, right? What kind of politics? That's why just another example, right? Democrats, disproportionately women, people of color, queer people, move to cities, have higher level degrees, work in biotech, fintech, science, tech, engineering, math, right? And they, and a lot of them are not from the United States, right? And a lot of them are not white men, right? Some people who own the companies, like Elon Musk, is a white man, but he doesn't do the work. He didn't program PayPal. He doesn't manage Twitter. It's a bunch of brown, non-white people that are not from the United States with H-1B visas, right? The people like, it's the Resnicks are white people, but the people that work in their fields are not, many of them, right? A lot of them are illegal, or overexploited immigrants, let's put it that way, that are called illegal immigrants. Weaponizing their passport, right? And so right, but they don't, and in the red Republican areas, there's a higher percentage of white people that are going to be voting for them, and white men in particular, right? Because it's the other half, right? If you have disproportionate women, people of color, queer people, non-U.S. citizen, etc. Then in the other, if you cut America in half on a line, it doesn't matter where, it's all unjust, undemocratic, racist, capitalist plutocracy. But if you cut it where you have disproportionate women, queer people, people of color, non-U.S. citizen, you're going to have more of white, straight men on the other side, right? It's another way to think about it. It's just, that's why they choose to divide it, so that they can pretend like U.S. is a democracy. As it cares about human rights, freedom, and justice, and never did. It's based on slavery, genocide, and plunder and immorality from the start. It's always been an oligarchy. That's never been anybody but cis white straight-lined guys who have run the United States. Most of it was slaves, and Chinese and Asians and other people didn't count. They couldn't even testify in court for most of the U.S.'s history. It's only in the last 7 years they've even pretended to be democratic, human rights, freedom, respecting at all. They never have. They never will. U.S. will probably, well, I mean, I never say never, but it'll probably disintegrate to balkanize into nothing before the United States ever actually respects, really does what it says in its description. So anyway, if you cut it that way, then you look at it, then of course, then the Republican side is going to be for, they will say, right, as I pointed out last week, they will say, therefore, kicking out the Republicans, the white man party will say, we want to get rid of as many of these non-Americans. They don't always say it directly, but we would want, there's all these Mexicans and South Americans and other people coming into our beautiful country, and it needs to be, they're not going to say it out loud, but we want a white country. We don't want brown and black people in our beautiful country. We want illegal immigrants in our country. They're taking my jobs, blah, 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 blah. The reality is that, right, what we discovered is many of the white people that voted for Trump, they're like, I can't run my business because, not because actually Trump, Republicans actually statistically deport less total immigrants than the Democrats, right? It's actually, Obama did 400,000 deportations. Trump in his first, he only did less than 300,000. It's like almost like half of Obama. Oh, and Obama was a black president, right? A black Democrat. And Biden statistically did more than Trump, right? But Trump, this and the reason why it actually makes sense, it also tracks. Republicans run on, we are the party, right? Conservatives are run on, we are the white straight man party, right? Because the other one is the queer women of color party. And so when they deport, like El Salvador right now, right? They have to say, we're deporting all these people to El Salvador. We're deporting people out of America. All the brown people are getting kicked out. Look at the great job we're doing, right? Because that's the constituency is like, yeah, get rid of those people. Make America a white man country again. Make MAGA, right? Make it great again. That's what it means to them. So, but when you advertise that, right? When that's your brand, like in the same way that Republicans, beef is your brand, right? For Republicans, hydroxychloroquine and like weird, like obviously kind of nonsense, tinfoil, not necessarily tinfoil, but just kind of like weird, alt medicine is their brand, right? For Democrats, big corporate medicine is their brand, and for the Republicans, like hydroxychloroquine, colloidal silver is their brand. And the same with that, for Democrats, vegetables is their brand, genocide vegetables is their brand. And for Republicans, genocide beef is their brand. Although weirdly, some MAGA people are like, we gotta get out of Palestine so we can like beat up on people, indigenous people here. I'm not saying they're necessarily better, right? But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, so when the Republicans, but when they say, hey, we're deporting all these people, they show video, look at all the people we're deporting, right? Then that makes America look bad, which it is bad, right? But it's saying what it's doing out loud boldly. Like a Democrat like Obama or Biden wouldn't come out and say Africa is a bunch of shithole countries, but Trump did in his first term. That turned many Africans in and out around the world against him. And there's over 1 billion Africans in the world, right? And it just looked bad. It's like, oh my God, this is so bad. I mean, America has AFRICOM. It's a giant imperialist, genocidal, colonial entity in Africa. It's trying to overthrow Ibrahim Traore, an actual democracy, an actual human rights, freedom, democratic, decolonial country with its government that is trying to push, is using their resources and their gold and their food for their own people in Africa and Burkina Faso. And the U.S. is currently trying to overthrow them, funding terrorists. There's all kind of informational and hybrid war and direct war campaigns to using U.S.-backed far-right extremists, terrorists, to overthrow him, right? But like Trump will come out, Trump will come out and say these things. We have to get rid of the immigrants, or we're getting rid of them, and that causes blowback, right? And the blowback, because people get mad, they're like, oh my God, this is not who we are. This is not who we are. No, this is so racist. We got to get rid of this guy. It looks bad to people of color. It looks bad to, white people who want to think of themselves as not racist people. Now, some people are like dying hard. I don't give it. I'm just like, I just don't like people of color. Most people don't want to be seen as that, right? The average white person actually is more, many of them have these, like, they want to have their white privilege, but they don't want to be seen as that, right? It's actually, the average, they said that statistically, scientifically, the average white person is not going to go out on the street and just be saying things like, oh, the black people this or the brown people that. And they're not going to go on and say that. But when they're in private with white people that they feel like they and their family dinner, then they'll reveal who they are. And if somebody calls them out, another white person in their family calls them out, says like, it's really racist what you said about black people or brown people, then you just won't get invited to dinner anymore, right? And that's the difference between liberal and conservatives. They're basically the same. racist, colorist, imperialist. One of them is gonna just like quietly, keep using illegal immigrants, quietly keep locking up black and brown people. Statistically, liberals do 90% of all the mass incarceration and the enslavement of black people and brown people in the blue Democrat cities that they run. Right, liberals run those. But they talk about, oh, we love Obama, we love Mayor Lightfoot, we love the black woman mayor of Chicago. She's a black, queer lesbian woman mayor of this blue Democratic city, and like we love our queer Muslim something, and then also we're gonna like blow up all their countries, right? The liberals, and so but that's why actually Republicans and conservatives get less total racism, colonialism, and deportation done, because when they do it, right, there's more blowback because they advertise what they're doing, and because there's more blowback, they have to watch how much they do. You know what I'm saying? Because there's more eyes on it, right? Not because Democrats or Republicans or conservatives or liberals are particularly better. Obviously I'm neither. I'm an indigenous, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist. Aloha Kuleana Pono is from the sovereign country of Hawaii under U.S. occupation, but like in the Western world, right? It's kind of like that explains a lot of why there's less deportations, because there's more scrutiny on it. They got to be careful, and they're also less more incompetent because it's the white man party, right? It's like making their websites, right? It's a white man. Trump even said it himself. It's a white man's world. It's a man's world. So I'm going to hire a woman to be my architect for Trump hotels, because they have to actually work for their job. They have to actually be good at their job. Women. That's what Trump said himself, right? So he's admitting that. So that's another reason why like less imperialism, less total war often gets done, and less people get deported, because they're just not going to. They just are bad at everything because they're white guys. Because they have white male privilege, he's a co-spy on that. I'm not gonna deport. I gotta deport like Juanita and Garcia. Frick, that's so hard. I'm just gonna go be a white man and not do my job. You're gonna deport less people. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like if it's a black cop, it's like a black woman cop is like I'm a black woman working for ICE. I'm going to prove I am a hard working person. I'm gonna deport every single person in this neighborhood right now. I'm gonna right. Who does the essential work, the hard work, right? Women, people of color, and immigrants. And when it comes to the hard work of empire, who blows up the world? Women, people of color, and immigrants that are the programmers, drones, STEM people that know how to locate and do the coding that you need to find the actual people in Palestine to blow up with "Where's my daddy?" AI automated drone warfare, right? So that's who actually gets it done. That's why if you have a woke U.S. military, it's going to destroy the U.S. military. If you get rid of it, if you get rid of the DEI military, it will destroy the U.S. military, because you have incompetent white guys running it, and so it's sort of it's kind of like, it's kind of when Republicans get in charge, it's like, well, it's going to look really bad, but you're going to do such a bad job, you're going to destroy the worst thing ever, which is the West. And Democrats get in charge, it's going to look really good, and we're going to look really great and moral and not racist and not sexist and not queerphobic and not imperialist. We're going to look really nice, and they're going to do the worst ever, right? So anyway. You know that. If you follow my streams, you already know that. Okay, let me stop going off about that. So when it comes to medicine, you got to protect yourself from this. Part of the lesson of that is you can't, oh, well, I guess we'll have to listen to Democrats because you're saying Trump is really saying wrong stuff and misleading people when it comes to COVID, and Republicans are really bad on COVID, so I'm going to go listen to whatever Democrats say. No, that's not what I'm saying. So you're saying vaccines, are you saying vaccines don't work? Were you like anti-vax too? I'm like, no, I'm saying that like vaccines are not sufficient to stop the spread of COVID-19 and the catastrophic impacts of long COVID that you can get from reinfections, including based upon, I can't remember all the studies are, but if you get vaccinated, there is a slight less than 10% reduction in chances of long COVID, which is that's the really serious COVID, not the initial acute illness. It's the long-term symptoms like AIDS, like COVID-acquired AIDS, which is a real scientific phenomenon. You can go look that up yourself. That is one of the actually many, it could be 50% or 60% of people have COVID-acquired AIDS, right? But nobody is testing. Nobody's looking for COVID-acquired AIDS, right? hospitals that are all run by capitalist, horrible, complicit entities for the most part, and governments that are not doing what they need to be doing on this. Nobody is incentivized to look for COVID-acquired AIDS. What's going to happen is everyone's just going to be like, why am I sick all the time? I guess toddlers just got 3 colds a month. That's just normal, right? Right. So vaccines, even in liberal blue areas, you still have people that are getting sick all the time. Doesn't matter how many vaccines you take, right? Like vaccines work, but they are not like vaccines work in the same way that hand washing can reduce your exposure to certain germs. It does work, right? If you also, the reality is most viruses and bacteria have multiple ways of transmission. It's not like everything is airborne. It's not like everything is spread through physical contact with people's hands on doorknobs, or everything is spread within 3 to 6 feet via droplets of spit when you're talking to somebody face to face, right? Most viruses, some of it is droplet, some of it is aerosol, some of it is physical contact, right? How much exactly, it varies, right? But we know that measles definitely is airborne. There's many other illnesses that are definitely airborne, and we know that for a long time, right? But the way that even the WHO is complicit in this, right? Where they said they knew COVID was airborne from the very get go. It was Ghebreyesus was in charge at the time. He actually let it slip. He said COVID is airborne at a international conference, and this other guy next to him said, he whispered in his ear something, and then the Ghebreyesus, I think it was Teodoro. He was the head of he was a spokesperson for the WHO, the World Health Organization at the time, and he said, "Oh, no. What I meant by airborne was people can fly on planes in LA and then go to Tokyo, and when they land, they might spread the virus. I don't mean." So he backtracked on that because the WHO is complicit in the mass illness and mass 30 million plus deaths by lying about that. We also know because the WHO earlier knew that SARS, which is COVID, is just another one of the SARS viruses, SARS-CoV-2, also known as COVID-19. They knew that these viruses, because there was a SARS outbreak, another different SARS outbreak in the 90s, especially in Asia, and they found, the WHO concluded that ventilation in hospitals, masking, people, the both nurses, doctors, and also the patients masking in these hospitals, in the hospital rooms, and in the air, separating the COVID, the SARS virus infections from other people, and having strong ventilation, open windows, reduced the mortality and the virulence and total infected and the outcomes and the spread in the 2000s, in the noughties. Okay, so they already knew that these viruses were airborne, right? And many of the WHO knew that. They just lied. So the WHO is to blame. The WHO is also under the UN. That's a whole problem right there. Which is under the United States, controlled by the United States. And so the WHO is to blame. The CDC also has completely blown it in various ways, withholding information, not sharing information, saying everything is safe, trying to minimize and hide the COVID risks. It's just been constant, right? If you've been a COVID conscious person for the last years or whatever amount of time, all you've seen is basically everybody lying and hiding and trying to cover up what is actually happening at various ways at various times to benefit themselves, in various ways, right? And so so this CDC, WHO, so none of these are ultimately fully trustworthy, unfortunately. It just means it's really hard to figure this stuff out. You have to do a lot of research, and I know not everybody has time to do all the research. That's why I'm doing this stream, doing this video in part so that people can. This is I don't have all the answers to everything all the time. This is as best as we can manage at the Silver Spook Cooperative, at the Silver Spook University. Silver Spook University, which has the health department, the science and tech department, engineering department, history department, economics, sociology, biology department. At the Silver Spook, which is basically me and Holly and whatever network we have been able to cover together, that is what we've been able to determine. And if we're wrong, we will try to fix that, right? We try our best. We try to be at least try to be transparent about. Holly has lots of links to. I'm not dropping every single link while I'm saying it on this screen, because I have limited time and energy in my life as well, trying to feed the kids and keep a roof above our head and sell games to make money under the capitalist system we still exist in, under U.S. colonial capitalist illegally occupied Hawaii, which has the highest cost of living in the so-called United States. So we appreciate all the Patreon and Ko-Fi donations for this, but as best as we can figure out, that's what we know, based on our own personal experience, though, for sure. Anyone telling you that masking doesn't work, we can guarantee that we used to get sick, like, somebody in our household will get sick every few months or so before 2020. Since then, we had 0 people in our household has been sick for 5 years. Masking. The amount of time we were out is about the same, right? The places we didn't move our location, like the places where we shop and the places where we groceries, the places where we come into contact with the public hasn't changed. So it's really a good experiment. I mean, it's 4 people. It's not everybody. It's not a massive double-blind clinical trial of whether masking and distancing and COVID cautiousness works. But like based upon our own what we've done, if you're getting sick a lot and you don't want to get sick, if you can, mask. You know what I'm saying? Like 3-layer N95, N94, KN95, KN94 works. That's what most of us have used. I actually use a 3-layer mask plus a cloth mask that seals the 3-layer mask to my face properly. The 3-layer mask, if it doesn't seal so that the air is all going through the filter and not escaping through, these gaps around your nose or around your cheeks, that's not good, because obviously the air is not getting filtered, right? You're leaking air full of horrible pathogens, not from a lab, but from the surrounding environment you're in. And so if you can get there's ways to get a 3-layer mask if you tie the loops properly, because the 3-layer mask actually has enough inside of it apparently to filter a lot of viruses and bacteria pretty well. So if you can tie the 3-layer mask, there's instructional videos that show you how to do that. If you can tie it up in a way, because the way it is too loose, but if you can like tie knots and shape it so that there's no gaps in a 3-layer mask, you can actually just use that. That's one piece of advice I've seen. Anyway, so long story short, so that's what we do. That's what we've done. And the impacts of COVID and long COVID is really bad. In case you don't know, I mean, let's see, not that one. If you get long COVID, one of the impacts is obviously the permanent destruction of your immune system, or reduction of its ability to function, also known as AIDS, right? Which decreases your life expectancy. That's part of why people get pneumonia so frequently. Not normal to get pneumonia. Another is brain fog, which is caused by brain damage via such things as microthrombosis of the brain material that you have, which is a really bad problem with the vessels in your brain. Microclotting that causes micro strokes or macro large strokes in your brain, which became extremely frequent among 19, 17, even 20, young teenagers and 20-year-olds were getting strokes frequently, losing the ability to smile on half the side of their face, forgetting their name, forgetting what their face looks like in the mirror, unable to recognize their own partner or parents, right? You're not gonna know you're getting these strokes. You're not gonna know you're having the brain damage, right? There's omeletification, or like basically fusion of the neurons inside of the brain as one of the impacts that causes a lot of this memory loss, brain damage. People who used to know how to use Excel, unable to make a basic formula in Excel, and that was their entire job. Now they're unemployable. Millions of people, are having effects like that. Unable to do math, right? Tilda Swinton, famously well-known, very highly proficient Hollywood and stage actor from Britain, Tilda Swinton, after getting long COVID, she was unable to remember her lines properly, right? She could not remember, because you have to remember the line, so you can be looking at the actor in the correct place while you're speaking, right? In the movie she was in, right? And Tilda Swinton, she even said herself, I could not remember lines. My brain was so foggy, I couldn't keep the lines straight. So I mean, that was her job, right? Her quality of life, right? If you can't remember lines, what else are you forgetting? Nobody's going to tell you have brain damage brain damage doesn't actually feel like anything, right? So like, most people, like if you get brain damage, you don't necessarily even notice it, right? Like if you, it's different. Brain damage is different. And I gotta go soon, but if you get a cut, like if somebody stabs you in the arm, if you get into a car crash because you're drunk driving, or or you're in America and you're worried about the fact that you have no food left when you get home because food has gone up to $2,500 per family per month, and then you get into a car crash, when you get hit with like bits of the steering wheel into your intestines, like that, you're gonna feel that and you're gonna see that, and there's gonna be blood. You know what I mean? So physical damage to your body, right? Even if you get like a small bruise, you can see, you can feel, right? The brain doesn't actually have pain sensors inside of it though, right? You don't see the damage there, right? You don't feel the damage there, right? If your brain is being damaged by anything, including COVID-19, and long as the as the furin cleavage sites rip open your neurons and cause them to explode, die, omeletify, have the wearing away of the myelin sheath in between your neurons, right? That allows them to transmit signals to each other. If you have tiny little micro locusts eating all the stalks of your brain web work, right? Ripping apart your neural net inside of your brain, right? The meat intelligence that is using ChatGPT to do generative AI, because your brain is losing its, right? It's organic intelligence. You're not gonna feel that, right? You're not gonna feel that. You're gonna just be a different person, right? You're just gonna, well, your brain doesn't have like an update. Like last week, you could remember your cousin Bob, and you could remember how to do 65 times 6, right? You're not going to get an update about that. You're simply going to not know how to do that. It's just going to disappear from your mind, and then you'll be a different person. You'll be a worse. Now you might encounter it if you have a significant other and they're like, hey, how come you forgot what was our date night? Hey, how come you didn't go to work today? Well, I mean, I thought it was Saturday. It's Friday. Why did you not go to work? Right? Somebody might notice outside of you that your brain is disintegrating, right? Or is being damaged, but you won't notice it yourself until that can go on for a while. You just be like, wow, why is my boss so mean? My boss is giving me all this hard work to do. I better use more generative AI. This is part of the reason why they're rolling out generative AI now, is because other humans are being destroyed, right? Because the United States is controlling its population to stop any revolution from happening by disabling everybody's minds and bodies so that they can't have the energy and power to overthrow their unjust rulers that they have never done. And that's also why COVID is, if it's a bioweapon, it's one to destroy the masses so that they have a hard time resisting the continued destruction of their lives and their environments. There's a video on that called Controlled Thinning that I put out. Because if capitalism is going to fail, if capitalism is going to collapse, and it's either the plutocracy gets eaten by the people, or the rich eat the people, or the people eat the rich. The rich want to make sure everybody is as disabled, brain damaged, and bodily damaged, and sick as possible. If everybody has chronic fatigue, nobody's going to do a revolution. Nobody's going to eat them because they're going to be too sick. And you can't be class conscious or colonialism conscious if you can't even be conscious of anything because your brain is so damaged. That's another reason why you shouldn't be getting this disease over and over. If you spent 18 years of your life, right, and your children spend 18 years of your life trying to learn, and you spend 4 years in college, you read books all the time, and then you get COVID, you might have just destroyed $200,000 in 18 years of work getting one COVID infection. There's another way to think about it, or 3 or 4. Eventually, statistically, the probability of long COVID, including neurological symptoms, goes up every time you get reinfected. It's about, I forget exactly what it was. The last time I checked, it was like 15% the first time, and then 23, and then it's like 35, and then it goes up. It's about 50% or higher after 5 or 6 reinfections. The average American has been infected, I think it's something like at least once a year. So we're talking about 5, 6. People have been infected 10, 15. One woman reported having COVID 24 times. And that was like last year. So she's up to 30 probably now. Right? If you get it once a month, you get it once every 2 months, once every 3 months. Every time you get it again, you are increasing the damage to your body, increasing your damage to your brain, increasing your reduction of your immune system. And you're not going to get informed on that. Nobody's going to tell you that. People around you, 90% of people are not COVID conscious. They're not going to tell you wow, we're really hurting ourselves. What's going to happen is everyone's just going to act like it's normal to be sick because everyone's complicit, right? Kind of like so many people are complicit in institutions, educational, government, and religious. Obviously, businesses are complicit in genocide in Palestine, but everybody's complicit in mass eugenics and mass harm through spreading COVID. A horrible, whether bioweapon or not bioweapon, extremely damaging illness that will destroy your body and mind. And nobody wants to talk about that. So they're just going to act, right? They'll join the mass consensual hallucination, the mass consensus horror and guilt and wrongdoing, right? There is collectivity in the U.S., right? It's collectivity in the West, but it's a collective mass harm, right? And it also prepares so that when they cut all of the surveillance, all the regulatory agencies, and all of public health is disintegrated, they'll be like, well, you all did it to yourself, you know? And, you know, in a certain sense, it's partially true, unfortunately, right? In the same way that, like, if you want to get rid of capitalism, as the Chinese will say, well, you have to get rid of them. You have to do what we did in the 1940s. You know, that's your fault, actually. Your oligarchy is your responsibility. If it's a democracy, democratize it. You know, if the will of the people, if the social contract is broken, the people must revolt. Even some people, at least that was partially true, even if that person was, you know, kind of not the best person. But nobody, you know, actually does that, you know, or nobody has done that. And that's not to say that everybody's wrong because you haven't done it, but like, it is the responsibility of people to protect the collective health, a sponsor of people also, but, you know, is to be concerned for the collective economic situation and the political situation, right? Just like everybody's responsibility to do collective, communal care for health, right? Especially if you identify as a communist, you should be caring for the community, including masking, right? So, but yeah, so anyway, the psychology of mass illness is a whole massive thing. I got to get out of here. It's late in the day. Long story short, though, whatever they're saying about the lab leak is nonsense. It's more, why are they doing it? Because the United States is losing a economic war, trade war. The U.S. bonds are screaming. The U.S. dollar hegemony is falling apart. The last time Japan is dumping treasuries, which is what's happening is when there is a big, massive, difficult problem, the U.S. dollar, U.S. government, the full faith and credit of the U.S. government was the last resort, or U.S. treasuries. People would pile into buying into the United States as a safe haven. That has not happened for the first time in America's era of primacy since World War II, and probably for the first era of America's history. Well, the U.S. wasn't at a level of power, but until the 50s. But its history, America is not going to get what it wants by kicking and screaming, and definitely since its hegemony, and definitely since the U.S. petrodollar and getting off the gold standard, the U.S. is not the safe haven. The U.S. is not going to. Trump is not going to get a call from Xi Jinping. He could be the clingy ex-girlfriend all he wants. It ain't going to happen. Xi Jinping is giving Trump the 555 number, and so the U.S. is trying to throw out all the stops, as colonizers do. They're going to try to everything they possibly can rather than change. And so what they're doing is throwing lab leak. The lab leak is just another attack. Well, let's try that out on them and see if we can get people to turn against them, just defame China some more, as the U.S.'s number one enemy, or self-created. Obviously, China doesn't want to do that. Doesn't want to be an enemy. So the lab leak is targeted at that. But all of the basis behind it is just fabrications, nonsense, half truths, and lies. Underneath that is Democrat and Republican, across the board, and various other groups and entities and individuals full of lies and half truths and spreading the brain damaging, or spreading the sick disinformation in people's brains, while also spreading the physical biological illnesses that also hit people's brains, like COVID. So all of that together is just to say, yeah, you gotta have to protect yourself by doing whatever you can do. There's masking blocks, there's COVID conscious groups. you know what I'm trying to do? Part of what I've been doing for the last month, to be real, I'm trying to finish Neofeud 2. And I'm talking to people, I'm messaging people like, hey, can you voice act for Neofeud 2? Would you want to voice act for Neofeud 2? Can you audition? And I'm like, you know, I'm witnessing like most people I'm contacting are like, I'm just like sick the whole time. And they're like, I would love to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And I'm like, why are you not doing it? And like, they don't want to necessarily say, but it's like, some of them are like, you know, I've just been sick this whole time. And it's like, you know, there is a big wave going around. And so that's been like really concerning. I mean, that's also, there's a big wave of just general illnesses. That's probably almost, it includes COVID, but it's not, it's, if everybody gets AIDS, which many people have now, right? Many illnesses are going to last longer and they're going to be more frequent. And it was just spring break. And I think everyone went to spring break. They did lots of, these are big super spreader general events across the board. They're coming back after seeing people from far away, getting on planes, being in close, dense parties, and then they're flying back and then they're spreading all kind of illnesses around. I think that's part of it. And so yeah, I'm trying to figure out like who is gonna be like able to even like do voice acting at some point, you know, because it's kind of like, you know, I know some people are not just voice acting, also just like working in general, and it's kind of like you know, it's a bit troubling and worrying because it's like are any of you gonna be okay? Are you gonna be okay enough to like buy a game? But it's also like I'm trying to encourage as many people as possible. And again, just because you got sick doesn't mean you're a horrible person. Because I know some people like have like I already said, they have difficulties with the situations they're in. But like if there's things you could be doing and you could do more, everybody should try to do as much as possible, given their circumstances. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna become homeless because you put a mask on, I mean, then like, well, man, that's, you know, I guess you got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, getting one more COVID infection, you know, versus like being out on the street and then you might just die shortly after that from exposure. I mean, you know, you got to do what you got to do. But if it's just like, well, this could slightly irritate some of my friends group, but maybe I could like educate my friends group on like what's up. You know what I'm saying? I know some people are saying I'm going to go mask to my job because I'm going to tell everybody I'm sick. I don't want to get you all sick, right? I got to work because everybody knows people got to work even when they're sick because it's the West. I mean, it's a horrible, barbaric place that makes people work while sick. They don't do that in China. They don't do that in Cuba. They don't do that in North Korea. Like, stay home when you're sick. Even in Russia, like, the norm is you stay home when you're sick because we want to spread illnesses around. It's actually mandatory for children, I think, to stay home when they're sick. In China, they had a rule. The government said, like, keep children home and don't make children do homework while they're sick. In China, that's a whole rule. That's part of how they're just trying to keep people as well as possible. They could do more, obviously. But, like, if people are saying, I'm sick, I'm going to work and I'm sick, so that's why I'm asking. So, but if you tell people, like, I'm just trying to stop you from getting sick, but hey, we all know we got to work because we got rent to pay, right? You got rent to pay? Oh, fuck, hell yeah. You got medical bills? Yeah, I got medical bills. You got to spend, you know, $12 for 12 eggs. You got to spend like $3 for an egg. Yeah, I got to make money, right? So if you tell people, like, I need to work, right? The boss needs us all to work, right? You don't want to get sick because if you get sick, what if you get sick and then you got to stay home? And then how are you going to make your money? Right? So then if you tell people, well, I'm asking because I got to work while I'm sick, even if you're not sick. But I've heard some people, that's the thing that I've heard from some people. Some people are like, I'm sick and I got to work. So I'm masking while I'm at this job or this event because I don't want to spread it to you. Right? Because, you know, what if you get sick and you get so sick you got to stay home and then you run out of sick days and then you lose your job and then you become homeless, right? Or something, you get into catastrophic bad financial situation, right? Doesn't it just make sense? I mean, healthcare is, right? That's, people are, CEOs of healthcare companies are getting shot because of how expensive healthcare is, like Ryan Thompson, right? Don't you want to, like, take care? The Chinese ask, you know, it's kind of, why do you eat like your healthcare? Like, don't you not want to have more health problems? Right? If you go to the gym, if you exercise, you eat healthy because you don't want to get health problems. One of the biggest health problems you ever can possibly get is getting long COVID and even acute COVID. Don't you want to not have the health problems in the super expensive, ridiculously expensive, destructive healthcare system? It should be like a no-brainer. If you think like America is not going to suddenly make your healthcare free. America is not going to give you a get out of being financially destroyed free card. Just because, you got sick. When you get long COVID, you are going to be hyper screwed if you aren't already from the healthcare system. I mean, anyway, that's one thing that some people, they just shut down after that. They just don't want to think about it. Like, I don't want to think about it. I just want to like keep living my life and being ridiculous. Right? But if some people will be like, oh yeah, shoot, if I get sick, this economy is so bad. Everyone's losing their job, right? Millions of businesses are shutting down right now, right? Millions of people are losing their jobs because the shipping containers aren't coming, and like producers of like toys, books, computer system software are all shutting down because of this trade war, tariff, economic war. Do you want to jeopardize your situation more by getting an illness that could cost $10,000 or $20,000 a year? What if you get COVID and you can't work anymore? Right? What if you and your partner got to work just to pay your bills, and then you get COVID and you can't work no more, you can't work for like 2 months? How ridiculous! Sometimes I can't understand people. Like, when I think about it, I'm like, if I get COVID and I get like serious brain, I have problems with my brain, I can't finish Neofeud 2, we're financially fucked. Like, we have to pay all the bills that we luckily we at least we have some like less than some people for various reasons, but like we still got to pay bills. If I can't work, we could still maybe survive, but it's going to cause so much suffering and impact on everyone around me for any of us to get sick. It's absolutely unbelievable, nonsensical, unhinged, bad idea to be going around getting sick with anything. But everybody's acting like, yeah, I'm just a little sick. I'm in such bad straits. Like, I'm going to lose my car if I don't get my paycheck this month. I got to fix the carburetor on my car. My car bill, repairing a 30-year-old Toyota costs, $2,000 now. We're going to run out of car parts because Chinese aren't going to send any more over because our country is a ridiculous clown show. And, if I miss one paycheck, we're screwed. Okay? Right? If I miss one paycheck, we're screwed. And it's like, the last time I got sick, I was down for 2 weeks and I couldn't work, and then I lost a paycheck. Okay, are you gonna like mask though? No, I'm never gonna mask. Why would I do something like that? Like, you just said, if you miss a paycheck, you're gonna be financially obliterated, and you and your family are gonna suffer. You just said, and the last time you got sick, you lost 2 weeks of pay. And you just said, if you miss this next paycheck, you're gonna miss a car payment, you're gonna miss something, and that's gonna annihilate you. You might not be able to get to work, and you lose your job. I can't believe people. You know what I'm saying? I cannot. This is not 90% of people. It was COVID unconscious. People are like, clown people, clown world that I'm around. I hope people around you are better. Like you talk about this like it's so serious, but you're not taking the basic serious action, the most serious action you can take. A COVID N94 mask, these 3-layer masks and N94s, is gonna cost you like less. If you can wear one for 48 hours. You can air them out. These things. I told you it works. The 3-layer mask with a cotton mask, you can wash the cotton mask. 3-layer mask is like, how much is a 3-layer mask? 3-layer mask. Okay, you get 100 pack. I just Google it right now. It's not, I'm not even trying to search it up. I'm not even trying to research. $12.99 for 100. Okay, so 3-layer mask is what, 13 cents. 13. You could at least one day you can use that, right? Even if you did the Titan 3-layer mask, 13 cents for one day. You maybe don't want to use that for 2 days. 13 cents a day. Okay, 13 cents a day times 30 days. $4 a month. Okay. How much is your Netflix? How much is your car bill? The best investment you could possibly ever make at that rate is just getting and wearing a mask in public space. For $4 a month, you could save thousands, hundreds of thousands potentially of your life. You could save your life. You could save your family's life. You could save your losing 2 weeks or a month or 2 months of pay. You could lose never being employed again because you can't remember how to do an Excel spreadsheet. Or what do? You do podcasts. You write for a living. You write video essays. You work in an office. What do you do, right? What if you can't write anymore? What if you can't talk anymore? What if you can't talk because you're sick and you need to you need to record or teleconference and you're too sick to do that, and you lose a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year of pay for $4 a month? You know what I'm saying? I try to sell you like I am a, you know, I feel like a used car salesman. I feel like I'm a 1980s commercial, like call 555silverspookmasks.com. But I'm like, it's ridiculous to me. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous that anybody is choosing to do this right now. And I'm speaking for my family, people around me, you know, just in general. You know what I'm saying? And it's mass consensual sheep herding themselves off the cliff. But that's the end. I got to go. I got to go before it. I gotta do another stream later on, and I gotta actually do crushing aluminum cans. So if you appreciate the stream, don't forget you can support us with a one-time donation at ko-fi.com/silverspook. Well, good for you, Colin. I'm just reading some chat. What's up, Street Cat Love? And good for you, Street Cat Love, starting the mask block, and good for you, Colin, for being the 1% of people that mask. Sorry, I don't check all the chat, but Holly definitely does. If you'd like to support us for this education we try our best to do, don't forget you can help us out at ko-fi.com/silverspook for a one-time donation. And you can also help us out at patreon.com/Neofeud, where you can give us ongoing support at the Silverspook Cooperative. At the Silverspook Cooperative, you give us ongoing support, and you can also get access to behind the scenes of what we're working on. See, like I said, if I get sick, Neofeud 2 is such a massive universe. There's 140,000 words. It's like 700 pages, right? It's a huge universe. I got to remember all these details. I got to remember code. I got to remember lines. I got to voice act an entire novel's worth of voice acting. I'm not even joking, okay? I got to do so much work. I got to juggle like 50 separate voice actors. I got like 50 emails this week. Okay, people are applying to voice act in Neofeud 2, and I'm like, how you doing? Oh, I'm too sick to voice act, you know. I'm not calling out any specific person. Some people are like, I know, so I mask all the time, so to speak. My family brought it home. And I'm like, that sucks. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't have any family members that bring nothing home. Be good with your partners. This is a tip to stay cohesive. Be good with your family unit. Be good communication. Be like on the same page with this stuff, right? Somebody lying about whether they're masking or not, bringing home illnesses. I mean, that's the worst. Anyway, long story short, but Neofeud 2, part of how we finished this game, to the extent that, I mean, it's a lot. I know it's bigger than I want it to be, but part of working on the game is making sure that we stay healthy because, oh my gosh, it's hard enough being disabled. I'm a 42-year-old disabled queer indigenous person that's at the we're at the poverty line. We don't need to be getting us extras. We don't need viruses. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there might not be a Neofeud 2 if we didn't mask. You know, I would just be too sick to work anymore. My brain wouldn't function no more. Or I had chronic fatigue. I couldn't stay working 8 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a day. I'm not working 12 hours a day every day, but you know. Nostromo's, so anyways, long story short, so we're doing the voice acting though. If you want updates on Neofeud 2 or Patreon, the anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist, cyberpunk, retro adventure game Neofeud 2, I'm the artist, programmer, writer for. You can get updates there. Also, screw AI art. This is my picture of Hayao Miyazaki saying this is the insult to life itself. We're looking at and repulsed by generative AI art. And also working. I'm going to have an update soon on the Silverspook Cooperative, what we're doing in terms of land back, restoring the ecology, bringing food sovereignty and all sovereignty for the in our Hawaiian Lahui is a Hawaiian word for nation here, and also at the Silverspook anti-capitalist worker cooperative. And you can when you become a Silverspook patron, you also get access to all of the all of that plus the Silverspook Discord plus Silverspook University, which is all of the content we have ever produced, categorized according to topic, including Hawaii history, social media threads and text, video, all the videos, but like categorized. I have so many videos, I know. Africa, Asia, Americas, Pacific history, economics, race and gender specific, analysis of Western imperialism, artificial intelligence, social media, a discussion of the future from indigenous non-Western perspectives, cyberpunk and sci-fi from indigenous BIPOC perspectives, various international panels from Asia, Pacific, indigenous people all around the world, on various topics. And yeah, anyways, so if you would like to support us and you want to get that, become a Patreon member. Also, Neofeud is on sales. Don't forget that. Is it on the screen? Yeah, Neofeud is on. This whole time, I forgot to say it, but Neofeud is still on sale this week. Don't forget to, every sale of this game, I did do the writing, the programming, half the voice acting, and the music for this game over the course of 2.5 years. And every sale of this, again, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, left, indigenous made cyberpunk retro game. If you like any of those things, you get this game. Stick it in your friends' Steam library. Every sale does go straight back to us to help us keep doing this work at the Silver Spook Cooperative as best as we can. If you have a second to leave even a very short review, it's massively appreciated because it helps the game get discovered in the Steam algorithm when people are browsing. No exaggerations. Neofeud is the best point-and-click game I've ever played. Well, thanks a lot to that. Thanks for Salvor from Isaac Asimov's Foundation for that. I mean, it's an honor to be reviewed by a fictional character from a legendary science fiction work. I'm just kidding. That's not. Anyways, I mean, I'm not kidding about the review. I'm kidding about that being the person. Salvor Hardin is from the science fiction book Foundation. Anyways, you can also get Neofeud on itch.io, and you can also get Decolonators, which is a game about kicking capitalist colonizer butts out of your sovereign country. And also, there's Neofeud Indigistar, Pigeon with Gun. If you are interested in voice acting, though, you can also contact me anywhere in the Discord, Silverspook at Gmail, Silverspook Games at Gmail, or on various other anywhere I'm on the internet, social media platforms. We're still taking people who want to audition for various roles. There's like 85 roles. There's a lot of parts in it. So, and this is a Neofeud 2 website, and I'm slowly working on the presence for the game. One of the many hats I have to wear. So, Woman is a book by Holly, who was raised in right-wing Christian evangelical culture, and it critiques that from the perspective of Mary within the Bible. And you can also follow on Rednote. I recommend, at least, I mean, you don't have to like only use one site. Some people I don't use Twitter for whatever reason. You might want to at least like monitor, like there's a way to actually, there's sites where if you don't have a Twitter account, you can like put the link in the site and like see what is being said there, because certain things, I mean, I try to not spend all my time there, but it's hard sometimes because of, but I try to like have a diverse, at least check in with various places to see what is happening there. Xiaohongshu is a non-US, non-Western Communist Party moderated social media platform. For the record, I stand with China against the USA in a trade war. I mean, all my peeps over there is like, yeah, down with the empire and the ridiculousness. If you want to follow me at Silverspook, look for Silverspook on Xiaohongshu. You can also follow Silverspook. You can follow me at Silverspook Games at wandering.shop and/or at Silverspook Games at mastodon.social on the Mastodon. Let's see. And you can also follow at Silverspook Games at Mastodon. And you can also follow on Twitter at Silverspook Guy, at Silverspook Games minus the E in silver. And you can also follow on Twitter at Silverspook Games minus the E in silver for the games related stuff. And you can also follow Holly. Holly is at Allergic to Blue. Yeah. And look at that. Holly's #1 pinned tweet is to do specifically with our topic today. So don't forget, thanks Holly for moderating and being a partner here at the Silverspook Cooperative. Anyways, now I got to run. I'm a little bit behind. Thank you to Patrons for all your support. Massively appreciated. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Stay safe, stay safe. Lab leak or not, what does it matter? It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to whether you should get it or not. It's what it is, and the virus is not good. It's still not good. It's not gotten better. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.